What if a potential buyer for your business walked in tomorrow and the very first question wasn't about your revenue or your team, but about how you're using AI? It's already happening. Buyers are starting to use AI readiness as a proxy for how forward thinking and defensible your business really is. And your answer can move the valuation in either direction. Today's guest, Ken Winell, is co-CEO at Nexus Digital Group with over 2 decades at the leading edge of digital innovation, helping owners turn emerging technology into a real competitive edge. Ken, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Keith. Great to be here.
Well, AI is everywhere. Every time you're talking to somebody about everything, it's all AI, right? I mean, but when it comes down to a business owner, trying to filter through the noise, the hype of AI, is something that they are in need of assistance with. So I love a little bit about your background, and maybe we can talk about how we work through that hype of AI.
Sure. That's a great opening question. And I loved your intro in terms of that, what does it mean with respect to the valuation of a business? I think that is a critical question to ask now. Let's go a little further back. So when I first started my career, I was doing document management, imaging, and workflow. Actually, even before that, I was ex-military and Air Force avionics and all kinds of crazy stuff. But that's besides the point. But as I started working with different businesses, I really started to understand, a document, the workflow that surrounds that document, so the actions around it and what you need to do to get it done, and then how you produce it and develop it could carry forward. And then that transitioned into omni-channel marketing, which is where, now with social media and print ads and television and commercialization, how do I reach bigger audiences? How do I track bigger stuff? We started really thinking about what is, and then that was really also in the era of client server computing, right? Which is way back when. I'm dating myself. Thank you. I have the white hair to prove it. But also, then we moved to end-tier computing with SaaS, which is today, right? Salesforce, HubSpot, ERP, all those things were large-scale systems. The cloud was born. Everybody started saying, wow, everything's got to go in the cloud. Don't have it on premises anymore. Move away from that. Security, cybersecurity, everything else had to call into place. In 2022, a little company called OpenAI released ChatGPT in November of 2022, and everybody's world changed.
Overnight.
Right, overnight. My company, we pivoted. We said, we saw the future, and it's this, right? Large language models, at simplistic level, machine learning and natural language processing has been there for 20 years. This is not new. But what's happened now is the advantage of these LLMs and the fact that there's unique platforms and you have, a number of different players out there, have started to realize just how powerful these tools can be and what it does and how fast it can respond. So, and now, even beyond that, now we're all talking about agentic AI, which is the next generation of this. And then eventually we'll get to AGI. But right now, I think that we are at a cusp of just starting to recognize how impactful this is going to be to businesses. Now, at the enterprise level, and I'm talking about companies that are thousands of people, they're already invested in this. And enterprise applications with AI are being improved. Microsoft released Copilot and everybody's productivity went up, right? Not really, but that's kind of the premise.
That's what they say it is.
That's what they say it is.
Right.
But enterprise applications are in process and it's happening. And all you have to do is read the news, layoffs where? Meta, Oracle, Microsoft, all because AI can actually do stuff. Now in coding space, right? This is a tremendous uptick. This is saving time. I myself was able to build a mobile application for something, right? With no code. I literally went into a tool, typed in some prompts and got an application built. And that is amazing, right? Because normally you would need 20 developers to build this out and it would take you 6 months. I did it in 5 minutes and had it built. So where I find today in my conversations with clients and prospective clients is asking the question that you led off with is, how is AI going to impact the value of my business? And that is our secret sauce. That's what Nexus Digital Group does is what I'm now calling is we deconstruct your business and reconstruct your business, right? The deconstruction is tell us what your business is today. Just tell us, right? Because the fear factor that every small and mid-sized business person has is, I hear about this AI stuff. I don't have the ability to bring in a 6-figure salary AI expert come in and help me get things done. And at the same time, I'm hearing I have to get to AI. I have to get to AI. There's some kind of forced pressure that's being fed to them. and they don't understand it. It's like, no, that's not the way to think about this. The way to think about it is, what's it going to do to my business if I use AI? And is that a negative or a positive? And let's make sure that it's going to be a positive.
So, so we just had some management presentations with potential buyers, right? And I know, the private equity buyers, right? They're cutting edge. They're on top of this stuff right from the get go. So they either on their bench or someone like yourself is in the background, and they are developing all their research of companies, how they want to approach companies, what they were looking for when they meet with clients, how to ask the questions, what they think the growth, where there's opportunity, not only for growth, but also for efficiencies, productivity, whatnot. So we're sitting there in a meeting, and look, our client, is first, second generation business owners. And they are at the point where they're looking to transition. Right? Our average client's probably 65 to 68 years old right now. We have 161, we have 175, right? So you sit down and they come in, and you're running your business to the point where I'm ready to sell, but it's been such a game change with AI that it's everywhere. And one of the first questions out of how are you guys using it, right? I mean, if I'm a business owner and I'm looking to exit, whether it's 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, or tomorrow, what can I do to prepare for that question, for myself or my business or whatever, to say, is to get so I can achieve that value proposition I'm looking for, right? I mean, what are some of the tools I can use so that I can answer the question intelligently, whether it's me or I assign someone, how do I get myself started?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely, what I call ground zero. And I would answer, and I hate doing this because I know bureaucracy is it's the enemy of every business. What's your AI policy? And what I mean by that is it is critical for every business out there to say, this is our policy around AI. This is what we will support. This is what we won't support, because the risks are too high if you don't have them defined up front. What do I mean by that? Okay, so if you use a commercial package like ChatGPT and you're paying $20 a month or maybe $200 a month to have access to it, are you putting all your information in the public domain, or are you doing it on a private domain?
Good point.
Right?
Yeah.
Where are you setting that up? Number two is, what guardrails do you have in place to make sure that human in the loop, which is a foundational element of AI, that a human has to be there to make sure that the AI doesn't hallucinate, doesn't get an integral bias that you want to not have, and is trained properly, right? Those are three fundamental questions that I, as a PE person, would say, show me your AI policy, right? Because if you don't have that and you just say, well, we're just experimenting with it. Or, oh no, we wrote it. My IT guy put up something and said, we can use ChatGPT.
Or you may have somebody in your organization that's using it. You're not even sure that
Exactly.
they're not using it. And all of a sudden they're putting stuff that's proprietary to you in an open domain.
Exactly.
Right? I hear what you're saying. Is like, you got to make sure that you can put guardrails around that, so that, because someone would say, okay, if it's out there, it means your competition could see it. And all of a sudden it raises, what else am I missing?
Well, that's also a misconception. So what happens is, these models that are out there, if you're putting intellectual information into ChatGPT, it is not being shared that says company ABC has just put their proprietary recipe for Coca-Cola up there.
Right.
But I could ask in an outside world, say, show me all the people that are making beverages, show me all the recipes and the ingredients that might be used in that. And then if that formula happens to be in part of a conversation that's in the public domain, that formula could say, oh, other companies have tried this.
Right.
Right.
Interesting.
And so you really need to think about it from that standpoint. It's imperative. And so to your question, it's really, there are three fundamentals that I look for. One is, do you have an AI policy? That's the first question. The second is, what are you using AI for? Which is, it's not for the, like, if you want something to write emails for you and you want something to, just make pretty PowerPoint presentations, or what I see in a lot of companies, especially small size businesses, is they're leveraging it for marketing. Create an image, create an ad campaign, do something for me. That's fine. It's okay. But understand that you can have much more impact when you start looking at supply chain analytics, when you start looking at predictive analytics, when you start thinking about how you might use the tools in ways that you aren't currently using them. That's the deconstruction part, is tell me your business. I make widgets. Where do widgets come from? They come from China. Okay. You have to anticipate tariffs. You have to anticipate what's happening. You have to understand all these things. How do I monitor all that in real time? How do I make adjustments? It says, if I don't buy from China and I get it from Vietnam, I save 30%. What does that mean? And so there's a lot of things that start to come into play when you decouple that. And that's why we step through it.
Yeah. So, okay. I think AI, have an AI policy is like you have an employee handbook, right? Have an AI policy is critical. And so, but here I am, I'm sitting with you. I'm a business owner. I run a small manufacturing company. I maybe 20, 30 million in revenues. And, I got 150 people and I'm sitting there and I'm ready to think about selling my company. And, okay. So if I were to start with one area initially, right? Because otherwise you get overwhelmed. Would I start with tools from a standpoint of looking at my internal data and ways I can maximize that, or would I look for ways to go to market? What if from your perspective, you're out there dealing with business owners all the time. If and it's a staged process. If I have, what would be a good place to start?
That's a great question. So, what I see a lot of is companies say to me, Ken, I can't find the information. I know we have it. I have a SharePoint folder. I have an Oracle. I have a Google Drive. I have all these different places of the data. I got to search in 15 places before I can find it. And I've been using my integrated search or whatever it is, but I'm not getting anything. And so AI, just to catalog, organize, and learn where all your information it's a competitive advantage right off the bat, right? You could say, you know what? I don't have to look for anything. I don't care where files are stored anymore. I only need to know that the AI knows where those files are and can grab them based on that, right? So that's one area that I would look at. The other is really looking at any of the areas that you have in, let's say you're manufacturing. So let's look at your supply chain. Where is everything coming from? How are you reporting on the travels? Who's handling this, right? If you have a lot of people on the docks that are waiting for truckloads of stuff to come in and these pallets arrive and they're RF scanned and you're keeping that in your inventory, how's your inventory management working? How's your fleet management working? The price of gas is now a high subject, right? So
just filled my tank up.
Right. And so when you start thinking about that, what does that do to my bottom line margin? What does that do to everything? And AI can really help you visualize it, understand it, and react to it.
Cataloging and getting your hands on things is really interesting because I just did that with my podcasts. We have 200 and something videos out there, and there's different categories. So I went to AI. And of course, I had to enable it to, YouTube won't let you go in, right? You got to go through the other avenues. But I said, look, here's 10 categories that we're looking for, because we're doing something from a marketing perspective.
Right.
I literally, in 5 minutes, it came back and recategorized, color-coded, and it gave you 3 options, right? 1 through 10, but also these could fit here if you want to put this over here, and about on the 10 subject lines that we want to do. And boom, now I have the content that you're talking about categorized. So our marketing people can go in there and then they can pull from it in a drop-down menu, pull this one, versus spending a couple hours trying to figure out what I want to do. 5 minutes.
And let's go a little further with that. Now you have all your videos cataloged. You have AI that's actually monitoring it. And now you tell AI, by the way, I want to know which ones are becoming more popular so that I can amplify that message and make sure that, hey, this is the hot item, and develop the leaderboard or develop what you want, all to monetize what your videos do.
Right.
So those are things that, clearly you've done the first step. Goes back to, leverage it the right way.
So, all right. So, a potential buyer, you've done the initial work, right? A potential buyer comes in. I'll give you an example. So I was at a seminar a couple months ago, and they had a senior director from a large PE firm, like one of the top 4 in the world, right? And it was about, the conversation was about the state of the M&A market. You know how much time we spent talking about that? About 1 second. Everything was about AI. Everybody was asking questions about AI. And they've done hundreds of deals. And he was amazing. He said, the way they look at it right now is, and you can talk about it, is, look at the business, how are they using AI versus the competition? If they're not using AI, where is the competition potentially getting an advantage over them because they're using AI? And how can they leverage AI to beat their competition? And if you can't answer those questions, right? You can answer those questions, and that's going to be a value
restrictor. Well, so one of my favorite conversations that I have all the time is you work with a CEO. I go to mid-sized players all the time, and I say, okay, let's go to, Claude or whatever, ChatGPT, doesn't matter. Let's create a prompt. These are my top 5 competitors. How do I put them out of business? Ask AI. It will come up with a strategic plan. And yes, you are going to have to trim it and value it and all that. If you're not using these tools strategically, you're in danger. And so it's understanding that, like, I've been working with both for-profit and nonprofit organizations. The for-profits are very easy to work with, but the nonprofits are even more, they're not trying to put anybody out of business.
Right.
But they want to raise money. They want to, expand their footprint, whatever it might be. Same question, same exact question. It works every time. If you start thinking about it from a standpoint of AI, and again, I have to say this because I always say it, AI is not a solution in search of a problem. Okay, it is not. AI is there to be a digital assistant to help your business. And if you use it that way as a weapon, and you use it as, and I'm using that term deliberately, as a weapon, it can help you strangle your competition very easily, right?
Yeah.
Because it'll give you stuff. And, oh, by the way, if you're feeding it in a constant loop and you're saying, hey, the competition just raised the prices by 15%, it'll come back with a strategy. Okay, here's how we counter that. Here's what you need to do. I'm working with a couple of skincare companies right now that are launching new products, and they're doing all the market research using AI. We identified the target audiences that it would, resonate with, developing the marketing campaigns around that, what the messaging should be. It helped us do the focus group, et cetera, et cetera. And it had nothing to do with even getting the product yet. So it's really important to understand that's where AI can add the most value. Then we get into the next step, which is agents, and actually having these autonomous vehicles that are running for you. That
Agents are like your little assistant you have here, right? That's basically it has a specific chore sort of do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
it's a task. It's
a task orientated, little, like versus your executive system over here. That's a human that's been doing this for 20 years. You now have a little agent that's tasked with a specific direction.
Yeah. And in fact, I can explain it. The analogy I like to use when I explain it to everybody is, let's talk about music. Okay. What do you have in music? You have musicians. So you have instruments, you have brass, woodwinds, percussion, whatever, right? And then you have a score, and then you have a conductor, right? That's all AI really is. And if you think about it from that hierarchy, is that at the instrument level, it could be a person, it could be an agent, right? And either way, at that instrument level, it has to make a sound, it has to produce something, right? And that sound now has to be orchestrated so that it actually creates a melody and a harmony. And then, oh, by the way, who's steering this role? The conductors don't walk out and, musicians start playing by themselves. They're waiting for someone to wave the wand. That's AI in a nutshell. That's how you have to think about this. And the other thing that really is interesting now is that when you start talking about human resources, right? The term human resource in itself is going to disappear. It has to, because now it's not going to be, is it a person or is it an agent? Because you have to manage both, and you have to treat both the same way, not with, benefits, et cetera, et cetera. Although you may have benefits for agents, you may have that kind of scheme that works, but that's all it's going to be. And then now you're going to have a combination of, how am I managing a company? I'm managing a company, a combination of physical human resources and AI agents to produce the results that I need to drive that business.
It's interesting because I was with a client a couple weeks ago, maybe over a month ago, and we were talking about that, and they had working to set up a little benefits, because what's you spend 25% of. I mean, I used to run 3 businesses before I started Osage,
Right.
25 years ago, and you spend 25%, if not more, of your time managing human resources, and a lot of it comes down to, the benefits. What am I supposed to get? This and that, you name it.
Right.
So, setting up an agent so that literally could answer 90% of your questions. So if you were working for me and said, hey, what's my deductible on the year, for this? And you can go up and it will tell you what our policy is, like right then.
Right.
You don't have to call me. You don't have to call the human resource person. A lot of smaller companies don't have a human resource. They have an outsourced human resource.
Sure.
Then the other interesting thing was certain things are overly, let's say, confidential in nature, proprietary. And it will tell you, if you ask for something, it will tell you, I'm sorry, we're not able to provide that. You need to contact the human resource, but for this specific task. So all of a sudden, people want to know, like, my vacation policy, my sick time, how many I have left. I mean, it all shows up. And you can instead of going to somebody, getting up from your desk, walking across the room, finding out, writing it down, forgetting it, going back to them, you type it in, and everything's right there.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
No,
like, I mean, it's great. It's great. But
we last year in 2025 we deployed an HR augmented AI system for a company that they manufacture aviation parts for aircraft, and they had over 1,000 employees. What we did for that was the benefits manager was interested in eliminating performance reviews, annual performance reviews, because they felt that it was, the culture has shifted. There's a generational shift of the workforce, and, the boomers are retiring, the Gen Zs are coming in, or the Gen As or whatever. And so they have different mindsets about getting reward and recognition. We used AI to monitor individual workflow output from people of what they were doing, what they're working on, based on their project reports, based on their emails, based on everything else. That then came back with their performance weighting table. And so now they have, and every employee can see it. It's an open book. So you could go in and say, how am I doing? Right? Well, right now it looks like you're good to get a 10% raise, right? Oh, right now it looks like you're not going to get a raise. Oh, right now your job is in jeopardy. You need to get on a performance plan because you really are not, carrying your weight, right? All of those for a 1,000-person organization are now being handled through an AI engine, which the HR manager is overseeing directly as the human in the loop and the ultimate accountable person.
Ken, thank you so much for being with us today. This is such an important topic. AI is everywhere. We'd love to have you back for another conversation to discuss more in-depth AI and how to implement it into your business and how that could help increase your valuation. Again, I'm Keith D, President of Osage Advisors. If you enjoyed this podcast, please click below on other podcasts on similar subjects. And we appreciate you being with us today, and have a great day.